Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kings of Fantasy Football. I'm your co-host Pablo, and here's my co-host.
Leo.
So, on today's episode, we're going to be discussing waiver wires for Week 6 of the fantasy football season. Can't believe we are already 6 weeks in. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So we can start off with quarterbacks. So, kind of breaking news of today was that Joe Flacco has been traded to the Bengals. So if you're in need of a quarterback, like I am, especially in a 2 QB league, I'm going to be putting in a waiver for him. His roster percentage is pretty low. Let me give you the exact number. So it is 5%. So he's only 5% owned. Not sure if he's going to start right away, but Browning has not kind of been living up to the expectations. What about you, Leo?
Yeah, someone's really excited about Joe Flacco. Looks there. Yeah, no, definitely he's gonna be This should only help all the weapons there on Cincinnati. They Browning has really brought everyone down, and hopefully Flacco should definitely raise everyone up. Uh, the quarterback, the main quarterback that I want to try to see if I could add, if you need, is Mr. Sam Darnold. He's currently 24% rostered. He had a tremendous shootout this past week with against Baker, the baby maker, over there in Seattle. It was awesome. But Darnold, he threw for 341 yards and 4 touchdowns. They did end up losing, but still for him to be throwing that much, he's been pretty decent the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's thrown for 242, 295, and within that time frame, he's also thrown for 9 touchdowns. So he's doing pretty excellent this season, and he has a pretty decent matchup that he could have probably possible another shootout with Jacksonville. That Mahomes just had a shootout with um with Trevor Lawrence. So that's someone to look at there. A couple other quarterbacks to look in a little bit deeper leagues is we got obviously Tua. Tua has another nice matchup this week. He threw for a couple of touchdowns. He has Waller coming through, and Waddle's been his go-to guy. Like going back to the time back when they were in Alabama. So someone to look at there. And a little bit even deeper league is Dylan Gabriel. Uh, he's been Gabriel Daniel. Sorry, Gabriel Daniel. He's that's probably the way he played this past week. Gave probably the go ahead to um the Browns to trade away Flacco. So he's a young quarterback, gonna have opportunities to throw. So just keep that in mind. And he's just one hit away from Shadur Sanders to coming through. So if you want to stash him already, but definitely someone to look at there.
Yeah, remember I talked about Darnold earlier. This season, he's averaging over 20. Finally had a breakout game, and I was really surprised with what's his name, Gabriel, like you mentioned. First start didn't do that bad. So moving on to running backs. So if you are an Amari Hampton owner like myself, you heard about him going on IR. So the running back that I'm going to target is the next in line in Hassan Haskins. He is currently only 5% rostered, according to Sleeper. Not sure if he's going to be able to get, plugged in immediately, and, perform, but, if you're needing to replace Hampton like I am, I'm just going to go from somebody from his team, until he comes back. So that is the running back that I would target. What about you, Leo?
Yeah, definitely. No, the injuries continue to pile on the NFL and also fantasy managers. You know, Hampton was starting to come on, and last week we lost Bucky and Chuba, so it's been brutal. Obviously, take a look, make sure by chance Rico Dotto's still there or Michael Carter. Those guys, with what happened last week with everyone being injured, these guys came in and performed. So just make sure that they don't happen to be there also tooting. The guy that one of the guys that I will try to grab is Hassan's teammate, and that's Kimani Vidal. The Chargers brought him up earlier in the game, earlier in the day, and he's gonna be there to stay because he was there on the practice squad, and he actually, did. To me, like if you're in a PPR league, I would actually lean more towards picking up Vidal, and so that's definitely someone I'm gonna try to pick up. Uh, Other than Haskins, another guy that to make sure that he's not there is Kenneth Gainwell. He's about 54% roster or so, and a lot of people, he had a good game last week. Well, 2 weeks ago he was on a bike, kind of like slid through there. So if he happens to still be there, definitely someone to pick up there. And a little bit deeper is Kendry Miller. Miller has been coming on a little bit. Yeah, he's always had potential, but he's never he always gets hurt. Or obviously Alvin Kamara has been in the way. But Kamara this year has been very lackluster. This year, there is rumors that he might even be traded. And if that's the case, that really opens up the door for Kendry Miller. So if you have if he's there available, someone to definitely pick up there. So, um, someone to look at. And a little bit uh, even deeper was last week at the surprisingly the Titans did activate Tyjae Spears, and only got his foot wet, with like about 14 rushing yards, but someone to look at there in deeper leagues.
Yeah, like you said, lost Bucky, losing Hampton. Whatever running back depth I had is kind of dwindling away. And there's not like, to me, any, equivalents, right? Unless you got lucky with like Dowdle last week and you started him, he ran out for 200 yards for his first game, which is pretty crazy. Um, so moving on to wide receivers. Um, I am gonna target Tutu Atwell. So, last week he did not have as big a game as the week before when he had that game-winning long touchdown, but he's getting targets, and especially in PPR leagues, um, those are pretty much what you live for as far as PPR. Let's see, um, he is 2% rostered. But these last 2 weeks he had again those targets that are really important. And this is much deeper leagues. If you're kind of one of those people, maybe you lost Lamb and lost Tyreek, and that offense over there in LA looks to be high powered. So that's someone who I would target for wide receiver. What about you, Leo?
Well, one one receiver definitely I want to try to add, if possible, is Kendrick Bourne, the Bourne identity himself. He um he had being with the 49ers that they've had so many injuries with Ricky Pearsall's out and Joanne Jennings has been out, Kittle's been out. Maybe Kittle comes back this week. Not sure. Not sure who else is coming. If they're how injured these guys are, but these guys are still licking their wounds. And if they do end up sitting out again, Kendrick Bourne, uh, definitely someone to pick up there. He had an excellent game last week that he blew up for. He had 10 receptions for 142 yards, and so it was pretty impressive. If you know, especially if you're in a PPR league, that's about 24 points, so at least. So definitely someone to look at there. Um, Another guy to take a look at receiver is Jalen Coker. He's been on the IR, and he's already been designated to return. So if he has to come back already this week, he's gonna be inserted into that offense really quick. And you know they have a nice matchup this week against the I think they believe that they play the Cowboys this week, so that should be a nice matchup for them. Another guy to look at a little deeper that we kind of picked him up a couple weeks ago, then we dropped him because he had a crappy game last week. But then he came back and he had 4 catches for 62 yards and 6 targets, and that was Trey Tucker. Um, the with Bowers out, they need someone to make plays, and so far Deontay um, Thornton hasn't really done much, so Tucker's been the go-to guy, and even Jacoby Myers hasn't done too much as well. Um, Another receiver I like is also Isaiah Bond. Even though this past week, he only had a couple of catches for 29 yards. He was playing against Minnesota's defense, which is really tough. But this he was targeted 7 times, and that's not bad. Being that Cedric Tillman's out with his first game without Tillman there, so he's only going to grow with Gabriel there. Two young guys, two rookies, so definitely someone to look at there.
Yeah, the Trey Tucker, like you mentioned, we talked about him. Looks like the Raiders can be playing from behind a lot, so definitely someone to target. And I think you mentioned Torrey Horton from Seattle as well.
Yeah,
Maybe that passing game gets more involved. So definitely a good target. Now moving on to tight ends. This past week I feel like it was tight end heaven. I even saw some people do like tight end parlays because everyone was doing well. You had Waller, you had Theo Johnson, you had the tight end from the Colts. Just can't remember his name right now.
Warren.
Well, yeah,
Warren.
Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
So a lot of tight ends were having good weeks. So the tight end that I would target is Theo from the Giants with Jackson Dart behind center. And then I think the last 2 weeks, first he scored 2 touchdowns, and last week he had one. So maybe with Dart under center, that's going to be his go-to. And we all know, especially with the tight end position, it's really tough. So never mind, it was opposite. So against the Chargers, he had 1 touchdown, and last week he had 2 touchdowns against the Saints. So again with Dart behind center, someone I would target. What about you?
Yeah, tight end's like it's been up and down, but definitely if you want to take a look at some guys, because maybe they've been dropped in your leagues, David Njoku, now that Dylan Gabriel's there, he might need the help of his tight end. So always rookie's best friend, right? As they say, Fannin as well, and also Kyle Pitts. Maybe Kyle Pitts was dropped as well, being that he was on a bye last week. So if some sucker did that, which someone did in my league, I was able to pick him up last week. So just make sure that those guys aren't there. The main tight end that I would try to pick up this week is Mason Taylor with the Jets. He's actually, to me, after Garrett Wilson, there's not really much out there that Justin Fields can throw to. But over these past few weeks, he's been one of Fields' go-to guys. The past couple of weeks, he's had 5 receptions and 9 receptions last week, and he's gone over 60 yards in both weeks. So that to me is solid because you're getting double digit in the PPR leagues. He's producing double digits. So definitely someone to look at there and for tight ends. Um, Fannin we talked about, and then also another tight end. He's a rookie. He was probably more than likely dropped because he was on a bye and hadn't been doing that well. I think he got a little injured as well, and that's Colson Loveland. He's got you know, usually when there's a when there's a bye, right before that, Cole Kmet had a really nice game, and to me, it looks like Caleb Williams obviously is coming on this year, and he loves to. Looks like he was trying to get the tight end implemented. So being that Loveland's coming back, someone to look at there as well. And another deeper guy is Michael Mayer. Um, Due to Brock Bowers he's having some knee issues. He actually sat out last week. Mayer also sat out last week, but he's already ready to come back because he was in the concussion protocol. But just if Bowers happens to be out, Michael Mayer, who's an excellent tight end himself, is someone to look at in deeper leagues as well.
Yeah, good job in picking up Pitts. Because maybe this is finally the year where he's consistent.
Yeah, the good thing about Pitts too is that if he happens to be there, you pick him up and he's already had his bye, so you didn't have to worry about it for the rest of the year. That's something to look at too. Like if players have had their bye, and they're available, and they're decent, someone to look at there. Just yeah, you don't have to worry about their bye for the rest of the year as the season goes.
Yeah, and then Fannin, I think he kind of like dropped off, but now he's kind of resurging.
Yeah,
And then hopefully Loveland, because people were talking about him kind of being that same conversation as Warren, and I want to say he got drafted before Warren.
he did. Yeah, he did.
So he has to live up to that. If not, poor poor Bears could have had Tyler Warren instead. And then moving on to defenses, the kind of obvious choice, assuming that they are available in your league. There's currently 62% rostered according to Sleeper, and that is the Colts. So they've had three games so far this season where they're above 15 points, and that's, pretty much like might as well be 30 points for a position player because for defenses, you're just wanting them to stay at the 10. Most leagues kind of start at 10, but you don't always end up there. So that's definitely someone who I would target. With Julio.
Yeah, defense that I would definitely try to target this week is the New England Patriots. They did quite a number on the Bills this past week that they surprised everyone and they got the win against them. They're only 20% rostered right now, so definitely they should be widely available in most leagues there. And this week they play the New Orleans Saints. That they ain't doing too well this year. I don't know if you've checked or heard. They ain't doing too well this year, so definitely someone team to pick up there to use.
Yeah, I was really shocked at the fact that they were able to come out with that win yesterday. Honestly, thought that the Bills were probably close to what was it? Your Dolphins that went undefeated?
Yes,
Yeah. So
still the
I
only
was
team.
like, I was like, if anyone has a remote chance, especially the way we've been playing, but this past week, if you're any of us sports better, man, we had like 5, 6 underdogs that won. So kind of like that saying of any given Sunday. I was not a believer in until this last week.
Yeah, it's been it's hard to bet, man. I stay away from that because I have anytime I bet I lose. So if you have the power, go for it. But yeah, it's tough, man. NFL is really tough to predict. That's for
Yep,
sure.
really, really tough. So that kind of wraps up my players. Anyone else you want to mention before we wrap things up?
No, that's pretty much it. Just obviously just try to see with like if you see have you seen like we've had a lot of injuries, especially at running back. So if you have the chance, like maybe like to pick up a Tyler IG or a decent solid running back that Ali Gordon, stuff like that. Pick up your maybe handcuff your guys because, as you can see, 1 week they're studs, and the next week they're on IR. So someone definitely to keep a lookout for that. That's what I'll try to do.
Yeah,
My
and
tip
then
my tip for the week.
knock on wood that they don't go back, man. Like,
Yeah,
I'm afraid that they bring back Bucky too early, and then he gets
yeah,
aggravated that same injury. So,
for sure.
knock on wood. If you like the show, please give us a follow, share. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. If you have any questions, you can reach me on X. That would be at Archreaper, ARCHREAPR. Leo, where can they reach you?
Yeah, if you have any fantasy questions, dynasty questions, start sit questions, you can reach me on X at smooth1074. And I follow say, if you like the show, subscribe, like, and tell a friend. I'm trying to get it out there, and any help can help for sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.